Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the Moving to Florida show. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about preparing for hurricane season. We're going to talk about living in Florida and getting ready for hurricane season, give you a little bit of information on the hurricanes that we have come through as well. I am your host, Judson, along with co-host Mohit Badlani.
Hey, guys.
How are you today, Mr. Badlani?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I am doing good. It's just another day in paradise, right?
Yeah, nice sunny day out there. It's been raining the last couple of days, though.
Right. We do have a tropical system out there in the Gulf right now, so we've had a pretty wet weekend, though it's beautiful and sunny as of this afternoon anyway.
It's a great segue for our topic for today. It's hurricanes, tropical storms.
Right, for sure. Well, before we get started, I definitely want to point out some resources for this because, after all, what do we know? We're just a couple of real estate agents here in sunny Central Florida, though, as we said, it is sunny this afternoon, but actually it was pretty cloudy earlier today. That's just part of what we deal with is the weather here. So real quick, some of the resources that we use to prepare for this show, the official website of the Department of Homeland Security, ready.gov/hurricanes. I found a really good one that I had not heard of before, again, while preparing for this episode about preparing. Anyway, the website was the Insurance Information Institute, iii.org/article/preparing-hurricane. And then FEMA also has a great resource as well, but their link for that was just way too long, so I'm not going to read it out. We'll just be sure to include that. Yeah, we'll put that one in the show notes.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So yeah, we just don't want to steer you guys or deter you guys from Florida because we do have these natural, hurricanes that come through. But we get a good advance notice when they are coming, so we can prepare ourselves. Just a little bit of a history. We've approximately had about 500 tropical storms and subtropical cyclones, as they call it, that affect the state of Florida since 1851. That's been impacting the state of Florida. And unfortunately, there's been over 10,000 deaths, and hurricane hunters and hurricane fighters have noticed that since 1943. Just so you guys understand that this is just not just scare you guys or steer you guys in any way, like I mentioned earlier. This is just to inform you guys that this natural disasters happen. But anywhere you live in the United States, you'll have some kind of natural disaster, whether it's in the Midwest with snow and ice, or the East Coast with snow and ice as well, and cold
earthquakes.
West Coast, you got earthquakes out there, and sure they have some sandstorms out in the Nevada area.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing about hurricanes to me is, at least we can see them coming. We have, plenty of advance warning. They don't just pop up and they're here on top of you before you know it.
Exactly. So you can prepare yourself well. And we're going to show you some of the stuff that we do today to prepare ourselves, as well as go through some lists here.
Right, for sure. So do we want to talk about what we do to prepare first, or do we want to just dive into this list?
Let's do the list first, and then we'll talk about what we do to prepare.
All right. So number 1 is to plan your evacuation route well ahead of time. So if you live on the coast, it's possible that you might have to evacuate if there's a major storm headed your way. You'll definitely get instructions from the local government, and they say it's definitely smart to have an evacuation plan ahead of time. Basically know where you're going to go and what you're going to do if you do have to evacuate. You also want to take your pets into account with this. You definitely want to take the pets with you, as well as making sure that you take any important papers with you. Now, it's important to note there, most of the people that might have to evacuate are going to be the ones that live close to the coast. If you're well inbound, and even like we are here in the Orlando area, you're probably not going to have to evacuate. I don't know what the history is and if they've ever had to evacuate here. I can tell you during Hurricane Irma, we were somewhat new to Florida. My wife said, it's a Category 5, we're going. And we did. But that was definitely not a mandated evacuation like we're talking about here.
No, there are some mandated evacuations that happen in South Florida more than Orlando. I know they had some in the panhandle of Florida as well, but that was a few years back. Orlando doesn't have, as far as I've lived here, hasn't had any mandatory evacuations, but we did, just to prepare ourselves, we did decide to evacuate a couple of times. But coming back here, it's usually pretty easy, and this the state of Florida does a really good job of cleaning and clearing the roads and preparing for something like this. I mean, they've been having hurricanes almost forever, so if they haven't prepared it by now, we have a problem.
Right. What was it? 1851? Is that when you said that's how long they've been recording them?
That's when they started tracking them. Right. Yeah, or recording them.
For sure.
All right, number 2, keeping non-perishable emergency supplies on hand. When a hurricane warning is issued, people run to the grocery stores, like most of us do, and especially they do get as much as possible, get ahead of the rush, and have the following things in hand: have extra batteries on you, candles, lamps with fuels. Now our cell phones have flashlights on them now too, so you have that. Yeah. Matches, keep these dry. Materials for tools for emergencies like home repairs and such as heavy plastic sheets, plywood, hammer, prescription drugs, 3 days worth of drinking water. That's the first thing that usually runs out at the grocery store is water.
Water and bread.
Yeah. Water and bread. Eggs too. Food that you don't have to refrigerate or cook. Portable NOAA weather radio, a wrench and other basic tools, a flashlight, of course, non-perishable foods like canned goods. First aid kit is very important. A whistle.
Yeah, just in case you have to signal for help, right?
Exactly. And you got to, open your non-perishables, those cans. You got to have a manual can opener for food, cell phone with chargers and backup battery. Most of the time in the state of Florida, they've done a really, really good job of stocking the grocery stores prior to any hurricanes. So you are less likely not to find, these type of items. And then you always have Amazon.
Right, for sure. But it's also good to stock up ahead of time and make sure you've got these supplies on hand so that you don't have to make that mad dash to the grocery store and battle with everybody else.
Correct.
Yeah. And that last one you said there, backup batteries, I think that's becoming more and more important. Just like you said, we've all got a flashlight built in there.
Right,
you want to
exactly.
make sure you've got a charger, a backup battery, maybe even, they make these backup batteries with like a solar panel built into them. Something like that's probably a good idea as well.
Those are very good idea. People also get generators. Have a generator on you. I mean, there are things that we need in our homes, and some of the older folks that live down here, they may need some some breathing equipment that they have that they need to keep on a plug or a charge or of some sort. So it's important to have a generator if you need one.
Yeah. If you've got to have power, you definitely need that. Or solar panels and a Tesla backup battery that come in handy.
I have solar panels.
What about the backup battery, the Tesla?
I didn't put a backup battery just yet, but that's in the works.
Awesome. Yeah, you'll be prepared. Another thing that people should do as far as preparing, not one of the items on our list, but as far as cleaning up around your home too, just ahead of hurricane season is always a good time to do this, but cut weak branches and trees that could fall on your house or get blown down, and also pick up any loose items, especially when there's a storm on the way. Pick up any loose items that you have outside because they could become projectiles and break a window or cause other property damage. And then also, if your home has gutters, you should make sure that they're clear and ready for the downpour, because even if your area doesn't take a direct hit, there's going to be lots of rain.
Tons of rain. So you just be prepared. Make sure you clean your gutters out, like Judson said. Also, any loose items outside, like just piggybacking off of what you said, sometimes you can't bring like large trampolines in, because I know a lot of people in the state of Florida have trampolines, and make sure you securely tie them down. If you have to bring sandbags and sand them down, flip them upside down so they do not fly away, because they can be pretty dangerous if they are not securely in place.
Yes, absolutely. Great point. We also have a note here about storm shutters. It's a great idea to install storm shutters to protect your windows from breakage, especially if you're closer to the coast. Alternatively, you can also use plywood. I know some people will do this. They'll use plywood and actually put over the windows. I think probably, only when you have maybe a storm coming that's going to have stronger winds. But again, like we've said, you have plenty of time ahead of the storm to do that if you see that you've got a major storm heading your way.
So something I was kind of surprised over is I was out in Melbourne this past weekend, and all the homes over there, all the new homes as well, are done with shutters.
That's awesome.
And they have. I was asking someone, what's all those stuff, those little locks and stuff outside of every window and every doorway, every entryway into the house. They're like, that's for pre-built-in shutters. So I mean, all you have to do is snap them in place and protect yourself, protect your homes.
Yeah, that's great. That's good that they're doing that these days. And I know there is an insurance, a homeowner's insurance discount associated with having storm shutters as well. So definitely something worth looking at.
Absolutely. What do we got for number 3?
Take an inventory of your personal property. So taking an inventory of everything in your home is going to help make sure that A, you've got enough insurance to replace your personal possessions. B, it's going to speed up the claims process. C, it's also going to help substantiate your claim. And then it's also helpful if you need to apply for any sort of disaster aid or anything like this. Now, from what I've seen, the best way to do this, especially in the age of cell phones, is just, get your cell phone, open up the video camera, and do a walkthrough of your home. Just document everything in your home along the way. Just make it one big long video, document everything. It's helpful to know, maybe what you paid for the item or what it's worth. And you also want to make sure that you upload this video to something like Dropbox or another cloud service in case your phone is lost or damaged.
Absolutely. I mean, the cloud service doesn't cost any money. I know some ones are practically free. I think Apple does theirs free for up to a certain amount. So yeah, use those services for emergencies as well. And if you need to, speak to an attorney and get a will done too, because those are important. I mean, you may have something written down somewhere, but it might not be legal or up to the standard. Another thing is cash. Keep cash on hand, because if there's no power out there, no one's going to take credit cards or anything. If you are looking to get something in an emergency, keep cash on hand. Go to the ATM prior to, get some cash out, and keep that on hand just for emergencies.
Great point.
All right, number 4. What do we have here? Review your insurance policy. Preparing for hurricane season is a great time to review your homeowner's insurance to make sure that you have enough coverage. It is important to note that the state of Florida has hurricane deductibles. When was the last time you reviewed your homeowner's insurance policy?
I am probably a little bit overdue for that. Really, we've only been in the house for a couple of years, so I think we're doing okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I had to do that this year. My insurance policy did go up slightly. So, we were comparing other insurance policies. So I was going down the list and taking a look at comparing it with the other insurance policies. I had to do that. So it's very important that you take a look at that every year, because sometimes insurance companies update their policies, and you may or may not know what type of policies that they've updated. So as long as you keep in touch with that and see that it doesn't affect you as far as when it comes to hurricanes or natural disasters, that you're covered well. So what Florida has is a hurricane deductible. Now, what this is that applies to damages from hurricanes. It's usually a bit more than your normal deductible, and it's often expressed as a percentage of the volume of the home versus a set dollar amount. 1 to maybe 5% is common. This is not something that's just a Florida thing. 19 states and the District of Columbia have hurricane deductibles.
Right. Yeah. So, for example, I know our deductible for hurricanes is 2% of the value of the home. That's what ours is. Versus the standard, I think our standard deductible for like any kind of damage is $1,500, and then if it's a named storm, basically, then the deductible, that 2% deductible applies. So I did go and pull a little information on that, because, to be honest, this is one of those things that even I wasn't sure about. I had always heard that it was if it's a named storm. But it turns out that was not true, because a named storm, even the tropical storms and tropical systems get a name. But it turns out that at least according to the information that I found, the hurricane deductible does not apply to those. So going back to the website that we mentioned at the top of the show, the Insurance Information Institute, I'm just going to read this verbatim. This is what they said on their site. By Florida statute, the application of a hurricane deductible is triggered by windstorm losses resulting only from a hurricane declared by the National Weather Service. So again, that's what we found online. It has to be a hurricane declared by the National Weather Service. That's when that hurricane deductible would actually apply. And they go on to say a little bit more about it. It's from the moment that they issue the warning up until 72 hours after the hurricane watch ends, that would apply. So you don't necessarily have to have the hurricane come directly over you, but it does have to be a named hurricane or named by the National Weather Service.
Oh, interesting.
Right. Yeah. So like I said, that was a little interesting because it was a little contrary to what I've always heard. And so I did think that was an interesting piece. All right. So that pretty much wraps up our list. There's certainly a lot more things you can do to prepare for a storm. And I think everybody's level of preparedness is going to be different, both depending on, kind of how they prefer to do it. And then also depending on what area they're in and what the chances of actually getting hit by a major storm are. So definitely check out the resources that we named at the top of the show. And then we'll include those in the show notes as well. But I think now we'd like to tell the people a little bit about what we do to prepare as well. I can tell you this, after preparing for the show and reading through this, I realize I'm definitely on the lax side of the spectrum. I don't feel like I do a lot of these things to prepare. And maybe that's I was going to say maybe that's a comfortability with it. I grew up in Louisiana where we get hit by hurricanes there too. I was in the north part of Louisiana, so they were always a weaker storm by the time they came through our area. But yeah, it's a little bit different here, and I do some of these things. But Mo, tell us what do you do to prepare for a storm?
So I've been here for 22 years. So being here for 22 years, in the beginning, we wouldn't prepare as much because we weren't used to anything like that because we're from the Midwest. I mean, we would have snowstorms and extreme cold weather, but you would just get some blankets and make sure your pipes don't burst. So down here is getting all, getting all these supplies ahead of time, like you mentioned. It's very important that you do that. It's people don't realize that when you get to a grocery store, when you know there's a hurricane coming, you're going to be out of a lot of items. I know, like I mentioned, hurricane. A lot of these grocery stores during hurricane season, they stock up a lot. But having things like your batteries in place. My wife got little LED lanterns in the house. So I mean, keeping gas and candles is very, very good because those things also run out of juice after some time. So you always have to have a backup for the backup.
Absolutely.
So you just got to be prepared. I mean, for the most part, we haven't seen our electricity or anything shut off for more than a day or two. I know during Charlie, we had our electricity shut off for about 3 days. I think that was the longest I've encountered with no electricity and, the whole state or whole city not having electricity. But yeah, having all those things in place prior to, we have a small little closet that's in our garage that we keep all this stuff in. I mean, perishable foods, after some times they do, non-perishable foods, after some time, we do take them out and replace them with something new or something else. But yeah, it's very important that you keep that in place. So water is another one. Keep tons of bottles of water, at least 3 to 4 cases of those 24 to 36 packs. Keep those on hand as well. Yep. Yeah, I mean, water doesn't go bad, so keep that on hand. It might be a little warmer, but that's about it. So that's basically what we do to prepare. We keep all this stuff throughout the year, or we replenish them if we see them getting low. Because sometimes, like, oh man, I'm out of batteries, so we'll pull them off the hurricane stash, but we'll go back in there and replace them.
Yeah, and batteries do expire over time, so good to replace those. Yeah, I think we kind of do the same thing. We keep a well-stocked pantry anyway. We have, in addition to our normal freezer, we have a deep freezer, which I keep pretty well stocked. One of the things that I do pretty much year-round is any extra space in that freezer, we'll save like milk jugs and other jugs and fill them up with water and put in there. So they're going to keep everything colder longer in the case of a power outage, but then B, that's also backup drinking water if needed. So kind of a dual purpose there. And then we don't do the the disposable bottles so much. I mean, especially if there's a storm coming, we might go get a case or two, but we have a lot of reusable water bottles, so we'll fill all of those up. We've got a really great reverse osmosis system, water filtration system in our house for drinking water. So I've got one of the big 5-gallon jugs. That's part of my hurricane prep every year is I just go ahead and fill it up just in case.
Very smart. I haven't thought about that. Yeah, I have a reverse osmosis system too. I just never thought of, filling those up and then stashing them.
Yeah, I mean, that works. And same, I don't want to leave it full year round. So after hurricane season passes, I'll empty it and just refill it every year as needed. And then another one that we didn't mention actually in the show was, if there's a major storm coming and it's kind of at the point when it's imminent, you can also fill up your bathtubs. I mean, that's a good way to have some extra water on hand if needed.
Yeah, it's very important. And when I had my own brick and mortar store here in Kissimmee, we would board up our windows. So we had an awning on top of the building as well. So we would tie those down as much as we could. So that can be very volatile if it's just shooting across at 160 miles per hour.
Yeah, I mean, just like a trampoline, right?
Exactly, just like a trampoline. So board up your windows if you know for sure that this is going to be pretty bad. Or even if you don't know if it's going to be bad or not, it's always good to prepare because most of our windows now, or at least the newer homes, have double pane windows. Yeah, they can sustain certain amount of wind, but you never know when something projectiles coming towards your window and it will break your double pane windows.
Yeah, for sure. Just because you've gone out in the yard and picked up all the loose debris and everything that you have outside doesn't mean that all your neighbors did. So definitely something to be aware of.
Exactly. And I have a park in front of me too. So a lot of kids leave a lot of their bicycles or whatever the case might be. And, it's a little concerning. But, as long as I know I boarded up my windows and kept my family safe. And that's the point of it, just to keep your family safe, fed, and, have plenty of water.
Right, for sure. And not storm water, right?
No storm water. Another thing, get sandbags because water will come in between and underneath your doors. No matter how much seal you have underneath there, it's a lot of water. So just put some sandbags in front of your door or behind your door, however you want to place them. I know there's a correct way to do so. You can go on YouTube and find the correct way to put your sandbags down.
Yeah, I'm definitely not an expert on that one.
Exactly. So neither am I. I usually put them in front of my door so I know the water doesn't come right into the... But like I said, there's only so much you can do to prepare, but as long as you're prepared, you'll be fine.
Well, I think that about does it. I think we've covered this topic pretty in depth. Like we said at the top of the show, we don't want to scare people off, but this is a reality of living in Florida. It does depend on, what area you're in as to how bad of a storm you might get. And of course, these things are all over the place as well. That's why they call their prediction spaghetti models, right?
Yes.
So I guess we'll wrap it up then here. If you'd like to connect with us about your move to Florida, you can reach us at the movingtofloridashow@gmail.com or on our website, movingtofloridashow.com. You can also connect with us on social media. For Facebook and Instagram, our handle is at movingtofloridashow. And for Twitter, it is at movingtoflshow.